Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do beer stuff here. A lot of different beer stuff. We do beer reviews, which we're going to do today. We do editorial stuff from time to time. We do our chitter chatter. We do our podcasting stuff. And one thing I've always been very mindful of is price point. Used to be a big part of my reviews. I just kind of boil it down to whether I like it or not. I do mention cost a lot of times, but it used to be like, is it one of the better values or is it worth it price-wise? And I still believe that. I just talk a little bit less about it in reviews quite a bit because it seems like there's a homogenization of cost when it comes to beer now, and it always seemed like no matter what the price, I was always like, this needs to be cheaper. I don't want to be that guy. So it's one of the reasons why I kind of stopped leaning heavily into price point and value. But there's still some beers that are not. The price, I don't get it. This be one of them. Yeah, Bourbon County 150. I've never had this beer. This is 2021 version. It says down there. Because this MSRP'd, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, people, I'm sure you will. I think it was like $55. Pretty sure it was $55, $60, maybe $60. I am not paying that. Not doing it. I can't do it. My body, my wallet, my brain can't let me do that. But, yeah, I'm lucky to live in Jersey, and there's a lot of places around here that when the beer gets close to a year old, they automatically, it's almost like they have a thing set up in their ERP system to where it's like, this beer's a year old, we have to get rid of it, otherwise we can't sell it because it's going to be out of code. And they just do that with whether beers are ageable or not, so half price on this sucker. Got this for the old $29.99. Figured I'd pick one up. Sean from Nerd Sense, if you don't know who those guys are, I actually sent a picture, because we have Bourbon County's wasteland in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Those guys are very into getting all the variants every year, and they try to track them down, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. Here in Jersey, you just get them whenever you want, wherever you go. They just kind of sit there, and I sent a picture of this whole lineup of Bourbon Counties, along with a ton of old vintages, and this was up there, and it was this place wanted $69.99 for it, and Sean's like, I never picked that one up, but I can't do it for that much. Well, lo and behold, I went back a week and a half later, a year after basically Bourbon County went out, so that makes sense, the whole ERP system discount thing. And yeah, it was cheap, so I grabbed myself one. I grabbed him one. Let's dive into it. What does this box tube say? Bourbon County, Goose Island Reserve, Bourbon County 150 small batch, aged in Old Forester 150th anniversary bourbon barrels. I've never drank Old Forester. I couldn't tell you anything about the bourbon. Brewed, barreled, and aged and bottled by Goose Island Beer Company in Chicago, Illinois. There's a lot in the back here. Typically I say, screw that. I'm going to read it all. So buckle up. Skip ahead if you want. I'm going to read it as fast as I can, so I'm probably going to screw up a bunch of stuff. We already read the top here. It says, last year marked an unparalleled milestone for Old Forester bourbon, which celebrated its 150th anniversary in 2020. In 1870, founder George Garvin Brown changed the spirits industry forever when he sealed and sold his whiskey. Old Forester, exclusively in a glass bottle. Each bottle was adorned with his signature personal guarantee of the brand's quality and consistency. Today, Old Forester remains the only brand with an uninterrupted 150-year history, sold by the same family company before, during, and after the Prohibition. To commemorate this original act of ingenuity, Old Forester released its 150th anniversary bourbon, comprised of 150 barrels. They were separated into three distinct batches, bottled, unfiltered, and presented an individual batch strength. Once emptied, those same barrels made their way up north to Chicago, where we were honored that bourbon heritage by filling it with their signature stout to be aged for a year. They have 2021 here, develops in the bottle up to 5 years. Limited production. Goose Island Bourbon County Reserve Stout brand 150 Stout is once in a lifetime expression of that 150-year bourbon journey. A final blend of all the barrels offers beer and bourbon lovers yet another chance to savor a very special batch of barrels highlighted by one of the world's finest stouts. Limited in quantity, but boundless in flavor, this one-time 2021 release is layered with decades of bourbon and brewing history. Here's to our good friends at Old Forester for 150 years of making some of the world's finest bourbon. Cheers. I mean, this is pomp right here, this whole bottling thing, but I dig it. I love the whole tube thing. Let's break this seal on this sucker. Pop this bottle out. We'll see if there's anything different on the actual bottle itself. And see what's what. So it's the same size as all the other ones. Let's see. It is 15.6% alcohol by volume. It has the GI mark on it, which I don't know what that means. General issue. I assume maybe they blended all the barrels together. Enjoying a snifter. Close enough. It's a little colder than probably I'd like it to be, but we'll make it work. Stout aged in Old Forester 150 bourbon barrels. That's all we get. Develop in a bottle for up to 5 years. Okay. Let's dive into it. If you haven't watched my review of the 2022 Bourbon County, you're more than welcome to go watch that. I was not a fan. Got some definite kind of dirty deeds done to that cap from time. I kind of like that. I think that shows a little bit of a... I don't know. I like when caps look like that. A little messed up. 2022 Bourbon County. I was not a fan. Oddly enough, a lot of my beer friends, especially people who do beer tube and stuff like that, they were very much like, oh, you're wrong. This here is pretty awesome. But a lot of viewers actually said, no, man, I think you're pretty spot on with this. I was kind of conflicted on it, and I went as far as actually went and bought another bottle just to drink it, not to review it. And I made sure I got a GI issue of 2022, but I made sure it was a different batch. Like one I reviewed was in September, I believe, and I think the other one I drank without reviewing was in June. So they're the same GIs, very different packaging dates, and pretty much the same beer. So anyway, yeah, not much of a head on it. I poured it relatively gently. I got this fruit fly that's just bugging the crap out of me right now. It's December. I don't know how this is happening. And, yeah, it has a little bit of legs on it, or decent legs on it. Not much of a head, I meant, but it was pretty cold. So I'll boil that down to this bottle being a little bit colder than usual. Full disclosure, I wanted to review it. I bought it today. I wanted to review it today, so I put it in the freezer just to kind of get it going a little bit cooler than normal. So that's probably the case. As you can see, as it warms up a little bit, it's actually, the head's generating a little bit more. So that's poopy on me, not on the bottle itself, I think. Ooh, this fruit fly, I won't kill it so bad. Anyway, so yeah, it looks the part of a nice big thick stout. It poured a little lighter than what I typically expect from a Bourbon County, though. So anyway, let's dive into the nose. Honestly, it doesn't really have a markedly different nose than what I remember 2021's having, the base. I've drank my fair share of 2021s. I want to say I've probably been in for maybe a case. Well, if a case is 12, probably like 12 bottles throughout the year. No, it's got to be way less than that. I didn't drink one a month. Well, let's say 6 for the sake of conversation. I know that flavor. I know those aromatics. Very similar here. This one tends to come off a little bit more rounded. Not nearly as aggressive, especially from a barrel charge standpoint, even though it's there. But a nice roastiness. The big thing I'm getting here that is probably foreign to almost every Bourbon County I've ever had is a really poppin' kind of caramel to it. I usually don't get that on Bourbon County. I get sweetness. I get stuff that comes off around sugary. I get stuff that comes off molassesy, sweet kind of stuff. Very much like a charred, caramelized kind of caramel on this, which actually kind of entices me a little bit. Gets me a little hot and bothered. But a big roasty component, a nice soft barrel char, chocolate, vanilla, a little bit of coconut, all those kind of things. But it is that kind of toasted caramel, toasted dark and charred kind of caramel that really kind of sets this apart. Comes off a little bit more decadent, a little bit more richer than what I expect Bourbon County to come off of. Even at a year old. Let's just dive in. Cheers, all. That's delicious. That's delicious. Is it, you know, 5 times the price delicious? I don't think so. Is it 2.5 times the price delicious? Probably not either, but it's very, very, very tasty. And really, it translates almost to a T from the actual aromatics to the actual beer itself. And that it has this nice roastiness to it. It has this like big, rich roast stout base to it. Something very much missing from the 2022 version for me. And welcome to actually have that back in my life with this one. This is the most recent Bourbon County I've had outside of drinking one of those 2022s. You know, the barrel char is there. It probably gave it a little bit of a knock on the nose. It's very much there in the taste itself. It's kind of one of the tent poles, one of the very much things I look forward to when it comes to Bourbon County style. Again, 2022, pretty devoid of that. It's definitely here. You know, that sweet bourbon, it's coming off a bit cherry, that nice kind of vanilla, probably a little bit more coconut than what I typically get, which is always going to be a winner for me, but it really is, again. I got on the nose that I'm getting in the taste is this nice, like extra caramelized caramel. Kind of like if you just kind of cook down some caramel and get a little bit more, less sweet, a little bit more kind of rich, charry, kind of brown sugar caramel airing in the sugar daddy. That's where this one kind of really steals the show for me. Is that the barrel here at play? Could be. Could very much be. Could be the char level, this type of char they used in the barrel, how wet the barrels were, just how this beer and blend came off. But, man, this is very tasty. I might walk myself back from, is it worth it? I don't know. I would say this, too. It probably has just a hair less density, mouthfeel to it that I enjoy. I actually like it. It lends itself to being a little bit more drinkable. Coming in blind on this, I would obviously be like, hey, this is a big barrel aged beer. I think that would be pretty obvious. Hopefully it would. Where I think I would struggle with this is it a stout? It's almost like this is a blend. It's almost like they did like 2/3 stout, 1/3 barley wine. That's kind of how this comes off to me a little bit. Not that it's stout, its core, its ethos, its being is stout, but with that little caramel thing that for me is inherent to barley wine, and with that little bit more of a not lack of density, but a little bit more on the thick side of, but still drinkable. Again, that's a barley wine thing for me. That's where this one I think kind of shifts its case from is it as good as the best of the Bourbon County bases that I've had, and emphatically it's as good as some of those, but it's just a bit different. Just a bit different on its core. That I think is really, really, really good. Really good. It's not as aggressive as Rare. Trying to think of the other ones that I've had outside of the base. It's just different. It's that caramel thing. It's that mouthfeel thing. It very much is like a really well done barley wine. Blended. 1/3 barley wine. 2/3 stout. That's kind of how it comes off to me. Whether that's the beer of the barrel, the time, or all that kind of came together. And some beautiful kind of amalgamation of time and goodness to make this is pretty good. And that's where these are tough, man, because it is that price point at play. Okay, let's settle in at $55 just for sake of conversation, if that's the MSRP. Is this worth $55 for this bottle? No, I don't think so. It'd have to be Jesus in a bottle and Jesus is filled with 1994 Thomas Hardy Ale. It's just at that price. I don't, the whole white collar movement and beer and razzles and value groups and all that kind of stuff. That's just, I just don't live there, and I can't, in good conscience, exist in that world. So the price point at that $55-$60 price point is just bonkers. $30. It's a very different conversation. Very, very, very different conversation. Would I rather 2 to 3 bottles of the base to one of these? Sometimes. Sometimes not. I guess the best way I could put it is like this. Let's say this was readily available by me for $30, on a shelf at all times. And the base 2021, which is one of my favorite bases they've ever made. It is readily available wherever I am, but that is also readily available. I'd buy both. For different reasons, different occasions. If I'm really want a nice, rich bourbon barrel-aged stout, I'm in the mood. Bourbon County's really been my staple for that. It's kind of like I know what I'm getting, except for this year's. I think there was 2018, maybe it was a little bit. I'm omitting the infected years, but it's like I just want that impact. I want something beyond really good beers in its own right, but the Dragon Milks of the world, or 1050s, stuff like that. Different beers, but I just want something that just kicks it up a notch more. That's where Bourbon County really shines for me, because again, I can get them pretty much whenever I want. This would be like, I want something, like, I want that, but even a little bit more chutzpah on it. I just want a little extra, little on the fastball. That's where this one will come in. And I think that price point I'd be kind of okay with it. As an occasional, couple time a year, pick it up off a shelf. Don't have to review it. I already did it. I just want to sip on it, watch some football, play some video games, hang out, just one of those things. I think that's where this beer kind of sits perfectly, at least for me. And I'm digging it. I'm digging it quite a bit. I'm glad I picked it up, especially at the price point. God damn it. I got 2. I would keep that one, but I already promised it, Sean, so. Yeah, that's where this one lands for me. More like a barley wine stout blend in the most beautiful way possible. Reminds me a lot, very similar, I shouldn't say a lot, but similarly a lot of the, Jack Yose's do a lot of blends and stuff like that. Some of those other Midwest breweries that do like those kind of blends, very reminiscent of that. That's a very good thing. So there you go. So just, that stout base at its core with nice, rich, roasty, toasty, slightly bitteriness to it. The bourbon barrel, that cherry note you come to expect, the vanilla, a pop more of coconut than you come to expect from Bourbon County Stout. Mouthfeel's fantastic. Like I said, it's actually maybe a skosh less dense than the base, but in a barley wine-ish kind of way, which I think lends itself to a little bit more drinkability. It is that barley wine-esque kind of caramel, toasted caramel. It's not toffee. It's kind of like erring towards a little bit of sugar daddy, but it has that roasted caramel, toasted caramel, burnt caramel kind of thing going on that kind of just ties the whole thing together, that separates this from the other beers and just puts it in its own kind of fun category. I think it's fantastic, especially at the price point I got. I don't mind paying what I paid for. Let's talk about it. What's your experience? What did you feel about Bourbon County in the past? This year's base. Again, go watch my review. My thoughts. I know a lot of people disagree, but I'm me. I say what I drink. I say what I think. I say what I drink. Is that a catchphrase? Have you had this? More specifically, because I know some people who have had multiples or have drank this over the year. Have you had this when it came out? Have you had it since? Have you had it recently? And have you had it at different stages of its maturation? Those are the people. Well, I want to hear from everybody, but that's the conversation I want to have the most, because I want to see if this has changed at all, if you like it more now than you did previously, yada, 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 all that fun stuff down there. So there you go. We're reviewing the books. Tasty one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Yeah, hope to see you next time. Cheers, y'all.